What's Gucci everyone, it's AJ here again, and today I wanted to make a video on a lost video series of a video I've already made, but I wanted to remake it, called How to Sort a Stack with only being able to use 2 stacks. And I was actually asked this question in an interview once upon a time. I think it was 2 or maybe 3 years ago. I'm getting old now. I'm starting to talk about 2 or 3 years ago. Jesus. It's not looking good for me, guys. Okay, but the premise of the problem is, as you can see here, I just have simple Vim set up. The premise of the problem is given a stack of unsorted numbers, sort them into an empty stack. You may only use the 2 stack data structures. And now the wording of this problem is kind of confusing, so I will enlighten you guys to look at that later. But for now, I'm going to set up my example. So I'm going to have stack 1, and I'm going to make that array. I'm doing this in Ruby, by the way. It doesn't matter what language you do it in. The way I'm about to do it, it's going to be very clear that you can do this any way you want. Okay, so I've got stack 1, and I'm going to have stack 2. And that's going to be an empty stack. And while in Ruby I have them formatted as an array, Ruby, all your arrays have the same methods as stacks, but I will only be using the methods of a stack, which are pop, push, and basically peek, which in Ruby is going to be last. And I'll do some of the cool Ruby syntax here, okay? So there you go. And if my Vim didn't keep on commenting stuff, let's further ado, let's get away with this problem. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to do a while loop, because we're sorting the first stack, which I just made an unsorted stack, and we're going to do while the stack is not empty. Stack 1 is not empty. And in Ruby, you can ask that question with a empty question mark. So basically I'm checking, in other languages, while the size is not 0 for stack 1, because I want to go until I completely sort it. There you go. And so basically now that I've done that, I say while it's not empty, I am now going to, the end is kind of like in Java or C++, it's kind of like the ending curly brace. In Ruby, you just use end, kind of maybe an easier way to see things. I don't like it that much either. So while it's not empty, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call stack 1, and I'm going to pop off the first element. And I'm going to put that first element into a variable called element. And something you should do in your strategy is, I gave the question as you may only use 2 stack data structures, but a variable isn't a data structure. It's a place to hold something. So you may want to ask your interview, clarify, can I use variables? Can I use loops? Or maybe not ask them that. Hopefully you can always use loops. That would be a much harder question. But, ask them as many questions, probe around. Don't take too long. It's hard to get the variety right. It's always good to always talk with your interviewer, because, you want to keep a conversation with them. They ultimately report to you about, your communication. Are you arrogant? And not just your knowledge. And you definitely want to show them your knowledge, and that will trump all if you have a lot of knowledge. But you can definitely kill yourself in many other ways by being arrogant or not talking to them or being quiet during the interview process and not vocalizing your thoughts. So now I'm going to have another while loop, and this while loop is going to do the sorting. And basically the way this algorithm is going to work is that I'm going to pop off every element from stack 1. And then I'm going to check if the element I popped off can be placed on stack 2 without going out of sorted order, meaning that element that I popped off is bigger than the top element of stack 2. And if it is, I'll put it on. Otherwise, I'm going to pop off every element from stack 2 back on the stack 1 until I find a place for the element I just popped off stack 1 to go on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do while lm is less than stack 2 dot top. Then I'm going to, let me put an end here, and then I'm going to, while I do that, I'm going to do stack 1 dot push. I'm going to push that back on I'm going to push back on what I'm going to pop off stack 2. and that will do well. And then at the end of that while loop, after I finally have it back in the correct order, after my while condition means lm is less than the stack2.top, I am going to do stack2 dot push. I'm going to push on element, and that's going to work great. Okay, so then at the end of this, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to puts. I'll give you guys a hint here while I'm doing this. I left an error in this program, if you can think about it, or maybe draw it out. And then I'm going to put that, and then I'm going to print it out. I'm just going to print out 2s right there. Okay, so I left an error in this program actually, and the error, and maybe right now I'll fix the error, but if you guys want to, stop this video right now and either type it out on your own and try to figure out the error. But the error is that if I call stack2.top and the stack2 is empty, which would be in the first initial run through, I'd be comparing null to an element, and you can't do that in Ruby or in any other language, so I need to add another condition. So while stack2 dot empty and the element, while it's not empty and the element is less than stack2 pop. So it's going to first check if it's not empty. If it is, it's going to terminate early from that while loop and not check this second condition right here, the element is less than stack2, and then it's going to simply just push it on. Because if it's empty, you know anything should be going on the top. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write that, I'm going to save it, then I'm going to switch over to tmux, and maybe I'll make a video on that, and I'm going to run Ruby stack.ruby, and I forgot something stupid, guys. I forgot something that I told you guys in the very beginning of this video, and that is that there is no top in Ruby, but it would be the same thing if you were using Java or whatever. It's last. And so now, let me go over here. Let me first save this with write, and then let me go over to this terminal and then run the same command again. And as you can see, I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we started out with 1, 2, 5, 3, 4, 0. So as you can see, our stacks.ruby program completely worked. And well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Check anything out. Tell me if you thought this was bad. I'm using something called tmux to have 2 terminals in my window. It's really cool. Maybe I'll post a video on that. Have a great day, guys.